What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to DigiNated, your one-stop shop for all things Digimon TCG related. Today, I've got something special for you guys. DigiNated's very own BT5 top-tier meta decks coming at you for the BT5 format. A lot of the BT4 decks are going to carry over into the BT5 format just because it's really hard to ignore decks like Yellow or Greymon or Green OTK when they won literally all of the events that we had for BT4. We even get a new mechanic in this new BT5 set in the form of Advance that allows you to attack even though your memory has moved over to your opponent's side. So without further ado, let's hop into the deck list. We're going to start things off with one of my favorites of this color. That's going to be Digimon. Digimon, it gets a lot of support this set. It gets Armageddonmon, which allows you to have good matchups against things like Zwart, your BT1 Omni, your Alter S's, your Chaos Mons. Other level 7s, it doesn't stop because it only stops the when Digivolving effect. Digimon also actually gets the level 4 that gives all Digimon Rush. So with your token spam, you're allowed to rush with your token spams. You also have the tournament promo Digimon that gives you the security attack +1, so you can finish games early, quickly. This deck is also... it's able to go wide very easily, but with that comes things like you gotta be worried about getting Nidhogged, and Lord Nightmon. The deck also is consistently drawing and gains memory pretty consistently. The only problem with it is it just has a slow build up. The slow build up decks to me aren't the best decks of the format, and they won't be. They might be really good once they get set up, really unstoppable, but the slow build ups are just a one stack deck, and then you pop that stack and that's it for them. Next up we have actually Red War Greymon. So we're gonna put that in tier 2 just because red decks, there's not really a top tier red deck. There's a lot of things red doesn't do that they need to do. They really just do one thing. They just hit security and that's about it. They do get the tamer in the form of Nokia that lets you digivolve for cheap. They also get the Greymon that lets you digivolve over an Agumon for 1 cost. So if you have the Nokia and the Greymon, you're essentially digivolving for free. This deck has a lot of search power as well. You also have access to the BT1 Greymon that lets you check an extra security option. And if you hit an option card, you don't activate those options, which I think that card is insanely under... nobody plays that card, and I don't know why, because in North America, Security Control is one of the top most popular decks. Everybody loves it. It's a pretty straightforward deck, and that card just completely counters it. And a lot of people also forget that red has a card just like Blinding Ray in the form of Gravity Crush. That gets you 2 memory for 0 cost. It's a 0 cost red option that gives you 2 memory, and then whenever it ends your turn, you give your opponent 2 memory. Whoop-de-doo-dah-day, you're OTKing them, you don't care. I think this deck has potential just because it's a fast aggro deck, and fast aggro decks always have potential to be good. Next up we have Black Metal Garurumon. We'll also put that tier 2, but we're going to put it at the lower half of tier 2. I'm not a fan of black. I think black is one of the worst colors in the game. As a matter of fact, it probably is the worst color in the game. They get a little help this set with cards like War Manzemon. They really needed that card. It's about time they've got it. Every other set has like a 2-drop Evo cost level 5. Black is getting their first one this set. All the Black Metal Garurumon does is Digiburst 2 to delete a play cost of 6 or less. If nothing is deleted, then you get to trash the top security stack. Which, yeah, that's pretty good, but it's also another 1-stack deck, so you get rid of their 1 stack. It's really hard for Black to recover. Next up, we have the Ancient Greymon. Ancient Greymon... it's another red deck. I'm not a big fan of the red decks. It OTKs and everything. It hits security hard, hits it early. But we're going to put this down on everything else. It gets some consistency buffs. It's a fast OTK deck. Again, it gets like the Nokia that lets you play the Agumon for free. I just think there's another red deck that we're going to talk about in this list that just outshines this deck. Another card I forgot to mention for red is a Delicate Plan. It's the 1-cost option that allows you to check security, and any option cards that we hit do not activate. Very good card. I wish it included things like Tamers, and Digimon. The only thing it stops is like option cards that you hit. So it's not that good of a card, but it's okay. I prefer the BT1 War Greymon over that. The next deck we have up is the Chaos Gallantmon. Like as a pure mega, like a standalone mega, not as a secondary mega, I'm putting this in everything else. The card doesn't just do a whole lot. Purple already has a lot of consistency issues. That's the main problem with Purple. Purple has the highest ceiling of any deck in the game. Don't get me wrong. They have a plethora of options. Retaliation is absolutely insane. Drawing cards to discard cards is broken. If you played Yu-Gi-Oh!, Purple is your kind of deck. I mean, it has the highest ceiling and it's great, but with that comes consistency issues. It's very piece reliant. All the Purple decks are piece reliant. I just think Chaos Gallantmon is probably one of the worst ones, just because all Chaos Gallantmon does is pop a level 5 or lower, and then once per turn, when your Digimon's deleted, you get to play a level 3. So it's like a Chimeramon mixed in with an Anubismon, but it's really easy to play around that. Just don't put your... This last meta in BT4, everybody kept everything in the raising area, and then they would play from there. Like, they would bring it up from there. So it's really easy to play around in that aspect. And then the second part of its effect, I think, personally, Anubismon outshines this card, because with Anubismon, you're allowed to play like Nailbone or your Night Raids and still attack with the Digimon that you brought up. And you get their own play effects. So, in that regard, I think Chaos Gallantmon is just in everything else. You'll see it. It's a cool card. I prefer it as like a secondary mega. I think it fits that role pretty nicely. Next up, we have everybody's favorite Lord Nightmon, of course. Tier 1, it does everything that Yellow War Grey did last format, but even better. You get to play a level 5 Nightmon for free. You've got your Blinding Rays. You've got your Pulses. You can actually play War Grey as a secondary mega. You've still got your Valder Arm. Lord Nightmon is just insane. Doesn't have really any counters. It just does what Yellow War Grey does, but does it more consistently. There's really not much to say about Lord Nightmon. I think Yellow War Grey was overhyped last set. Still think it was the best deck of last set, but I think Green was just right there hand in hand with it, along with Security Control. Lord Nightmon just takes what Yellow War Grey did and just one-ups it. Next on the list we have everybody's favorite Yellow Green Rookie Rush. So personally, I hate Rookie Rush. I really do. And to put it high on this tier list really hurts me, just because I'm not a Rookie Rush player. My girlfriend is. She loves Rookie Rush. I hate Rookie Rush, but we're going to put it at tier 1.5. We're actually going to put it above the Aboromon, just because the Yellow Green Rookie Rush gets things like Spiral Masquerade, which allows you to decrease DP 3000 for each Digimon you have. So you can blow boards away with Rookie Rush now, while building your very own board. You've got things like Blinding Ray, you still got your Needle Sprays, your Puppets, and you also received another really niche card in the form of Cutemon. And Cutemon really helps you with that green matchup, so they can't Digizorp to get up into the Nidhogg. It stops things from reducing Digievolution cost. So it really helps you counter that green matchup to where they can't Nidhogg away your board. Next up we have Green Sarismon. It's everything else. Green Sarismon is the worst green deck right now. It does get support in the future. The only thing it really got in this set is Royal Nuts. Fantastic card, actually. It's a 1-cost option card. You reveal 5, add 1 with Digizorption. But that's really it. I mean, it's good to add your Blossos and your Argamon and I guess your Sarismons if you really want to get up to it. But I just think Sarismon is very slow. It's good if you can get to stick, but getting something to stick on board is extremely hard, and it only gets harder with BT5. Next up we have Security Control. It's no longer McDonald's Control. It's now red, yellow, and black Security Control. We're going to put this at tier 1. I think last set, Security Control was also tier 1. People were sleeping on it. I don't know why, because in North America, people love to play Security Control, and it's so good. I mean, checking a guy forces security just is one of the worst feelings you could ever have as a Digimon player. But this Security Control deck gets things like Omnimon's Zwart D, which allows you to play it from security. It's 13k DP. You get the new option card that's black, the Ultimate Flare. It's an 8 cost that lets you Digivolve by 3 to 1. and then you delete all Digimon with a play cost of 3 or less. Hey, Ricky Rush, see you later. You also get Transcendent Sword, which is red option, 7 costs, delete 11,000 DP or less. Then, if you have an Omni or a Greymon in play, or if you have that in play, you get to delete something with 15,000 DP, which just goes hand in hand with Omnimon or Omnimon Sword. So yeah, the security control red, yellow, black I think is insanely powerful. Definitely one of the top decks, if not the top deck of the format. After that, we've got Shoutmon, red Shoutmon. I think to me it's the best red deck, and we're gonna put this at. We'll put it tier 1.5. It's really hard for me to put a red deck any higher than that, just because red does one thing and it does one thing only. It OTKs, it swings for a lot of securities, and that's it. One blocker, they're screwed. They don't have any kind of piercing options or anything like that. Red Shoutmon is very, very good though with advance. It's one of those that allows you to attack on your opponent's turn. You get Nokia in it as well to climb up. You get the Greymon for the 1-cost Digivolve. You've got advance. You get the new Omnimon with advance as well. So it's just a really fast OTK deck. You got your Delicate Plans. You got your War Greymon from BT1. Does all the things. I think it's the most consistent red deck to play going into BT5. And we're gonna leave it right there. Next deck we have is the Purple OTK Crest Garurumon. Actually, one of my favorite purple decks coming into this next set. Just because we've got things like the Black World Growlmon giving it the Sec +1, or the Black Growlmon that gives it the Sec +1, and the Black World Growlmon to pop one of your own Digimon to unsuspend it. And the Crest Garurumon already has a +1 security. So we're going to go ahead and put this. It's really hard. It's a purple deck. So, it's really hard for me to put it high up on the tier list. We'll do it top of tier 3. Just because you can OTK out of nowhere with this deck. It is purple, so it has a very high ceiling. When you do draw on curve, and when you play on curve, purple is almost unbeatable. The next deck we have is Ancient Garurumon. Honestly, this is one of my least favorite decks coming into BT5. I know it's a fan favorite. Everybody loves Lobomon, Garurumon. This deck doesn't get a whole lot going into BT5, in my personal opinion. Blue gets like a 1-cost blocker. You have all the things that you have from BT4. You got your promo Lobomons, let you warp Digivolve up into the Ancient Garuru. You got your Hammer Sparks, things like that. It ends games early. It hits hard, but to me that's all it really does. So we're gonna put the Ancient Garurumon in tier 2. We're actually gonna put it above. Yeah, we're gonna put it above Black Metal Garurumon. I think it's a little bit better than Black Metal Garurumon. Black is just a bad color. Next up, we've got the Commandramon. Commandramon gets a little bit of support this set. It was already kind of played in the BT4. It's like a Rookie Rush aspect. On deletion, they get to play the Tank Dramons. You get to play everything. So it's really just swarm your field. They have really hard time against green with Nidhogg, and they have really hard time against like Lord Nightmon and Security Control. So we're gonna put this. We'll say, I think tier 2 is pretty fitting for that deck. I do think if you're gonna play black, Commandramon is going to be the deck to play. And this deck is really hurt by things like Terriermon, Gazimon, and the other memory blocker I can't think of right now. Because your Dark Dramons will not, whenever you hard play them, they will not get their memory effect that allows you to play them for cheaper. Memory blockers this format are going to be insane. Everybody's going to be playing at least 3 to 4 of them. I know I will. I don't know about you guys, but I will 100% be playing memory blockers more than 2 ofs in my decks, because there's so many decks coming up in BT5 that abuse memory. Lilith Loop is one of those decks, and we will talk about that deck coming up here very, very soon. We will put the Commandramon above. Yeah, we'll put it above the Black Metal. And we'll put it above Ancient, to be honest with you. I think it's definitely better than Ancient Garurumon, in my opinion. Maybe not as good as the War Greymon. You know what? Let's put it above the War Greymon. Black and red, hand in hand, 2 worst decks in Digimon. Sorry for all you black players and all you red players, but this is the truth. But at least you have two decks that are viable to play in this format, in the form of Shoutmon, Wargreymon, and the Commandramon as well. Next up, we have Dan the Man Devimon. Another purple deck, you know. Just one of those consistency issues. Very, very combo oriented, very piece reliant. Itself, it has a really, really good effect, and if security control is really prevalent in the meta, I think this card is actually pretty good. I wish it was like an all turns effect, but it's not. So we're gonna put this, I hate to do it, tier 3. It's a tier 3 deck to me, just because it's purple. Consistency issues. It does one thing, it does it really well. It's just you have to get to that piece, and you have to keep your stack, and then again, it's a one stack deck. Really hard to get that to stick on the board. Next up, we have Hex Blaumon, one of NA's favorites. It's one of my favorites. I'm looking forward to playing this deck. We're gonna put this at tier 2. We're actually gonna put it above. We'll put it towards the top of tier 2. I think it really has a chance to be really good, especially with all these rush type decks, like your Commandramon decks, your blue-green Rookie Rush, your yellow-green Rookie Rush. It just absolutely destroys the Rookie Rush matchup. And if those decks start to see a lot of play, then you're going to see a lot of Hex Blaumon. And I think it's a very popular deck anyways. Jamming is always going to be good, no matter what. So yeah, I think it's a very fitting spot for Hex Blaumon. Next up, we've got Green Herc. Green Herc. I know this is another fan favorite, green wise, and I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Other than Sarismon, I think Green Herc is probably my least favorite green deck to play. It's too slow, and I think Green OTK does things better, and Reflegiamon does things better. The 4 cost really, really, really hurts Green Herc. I know we get access to Weedmon, which lets you, when it's Digiburst, you gain memory, which is fantastic. But then you're still kind of piece reliant. You have to have the Lilamon, then you have to Digiburst that to suspend something. It's just not, I'm not a big fan of it. It has a slow build up. It's a one stack deck again. But you do still have access to things like Nidhogg, Rafflesia. You can even play the Grand Kawagamon if you would like to. Now I will say, Green also has access to Pollen Spray this format, and they had access to it last format. I think it's a very slept on card. So Pollen Spray, it's a 3 cost option, and when you play it, you get to add all Digimon with Digiburst. Then you suspend 1 Digimon for each card added, so you can potentially suspend 3 Digimon. I think the card is very slept on. Be on the lookout for that card. But yeah, Green Herc, we're going to put Green Herc. We'll put it at the top of tier 2 because it is green, and green is very, very good. So yeah, I think that's a fitting place for the Green Herc. Next up, we have Blue Imperiodramon. This deck is this is like Mr. Consistent of the decks. It's always topping events. Here and there, it's like always in the top 16, always. It'll win an event here and there. So we're gonna put this, we'll put it above Green Herc. It doesn't really get anything this set as far as buffs go. It does have some really, really nice support coming in the classic set. Being able to swing multiple times into security with jamming is always very strong. It's a very fast-paced deck. And you still have access to like Hammer Spark, and then of course you got cards like Ice Wall coming up in the classic set, along with all the other Imperiodramon cards support that it's getting. So I do like Imperiodramon right at tier 2. It has a really tough time against the security control matchup, and personally I think it has a bad matchup against green as well. But yeah, I think tier 2 is very fitting for that deck. Next up, we have Mastimon. Mastimon. Where do we want to put Mastimon? I think tier 2 above Black Metal Garurumon. Mastimon, it's not really a good standalone mega like to build a deck around right now. Coming in BT6 though, Mastimon gets a lot more support in the form of like Wizardmon and Mistymon, and then I think you could focus the deck more so around Mastimon whenever BT6 comes. But right now I like it more as like a tech option, like as a secondary mega that you could play in like yellow or purple decks. It really, really helps in the security control matchup, and I think if that deck, of course not if, but whenever you see that deck topping everywhere, the Mastimon will become popular again. Kind of like we saw in the BT4 format. All these Yellow or Greymon players started throwing in a copy or two of Mastimon just to help out with that security control matchup, just because you're trashing the top card of their security instead of having to swing into it. But yeah, I think that's a very fitting place for Mastimon. Next up, we have Purple Metal Garurumon, or Melga, as everyone likes to say. Another purple deck, very, very, very piece reliant. You have to have your option cards in hand. You have to build up to this guy. It's very inconsistent, but man, when it pops off, it is one of the better purple decks for sure. Being able to activate a Trump Sword for free from hand, or a Nailbone for free, or just any of your option cards for free with a Lady Devimon underneath it is just so good. You do get Earthshaker as well that you can activate in this card. Activate with this card. I just think the other purple decks are a little better. Like Lilith is better. I think Crescaroo is actually better. But yeah, one of the highest ceilings in the game is this deck, but I mean, yeah, I just don't like it. It's just not that good. So we're gonna put it at the bottom of tier 2. Next up, we have Plutomon, another purple deck. It's the same thing with all these purple decks. They're all just piece reliant. But the one thing Plutomon does better than other purple decks is it filters through cards. I do think out of all the purple decks, Plutomon got the biggest buff this format, just because it got the Earthshaker. And it already had Hell's Gate, which is an extremely good card. If it had an actual security effect, that card would be broken. But yeah, so the downside of Plutomon is it is a 4 cost to Digivolve, but it did get the Earthshaker. You can cycle through your cards. You're essentially drawing 3, discarding 2. It's essentially a Lady Devimon in a mega form. So we'll take the Dandevi and we will put it above Black Metal Garurumon. I think it's a very fitting place. It's at the bottom of tier 2 is where the purple decks belong, in my opinion. Next up, we have Mega Zoo. Personally, one of my least favorite decks in the entire game. The game was never designed to be played like this, I don't believe. I could be wrong. Bandai could have intentionally done this. But I think giving your opponent 5+ memory, a good player will take that memory and absolutely destroy you with it. No matter what you put on board, they will just wreck shop with that much memory. As a green player, I love memory. You give me more than 3 memory and we're having a good time. So with the Mega Zoo, I know a lot of people are really be mad at this one, but we're gonna put it at the bottom of tier 3. You do get a few buffs this format in the form of like Omnimons, the Zwart, the Armageddonmon, which is a good tech option for a lot of these like top tier 1, tier 2 decks. I just don't think it's enough to put Mega Zoo higher than tier 3. Next up, my favorite, or one of my favorites. I just love green in general. Green OTK. This deck is still extremely good. We saw almost half the playing field in BT4 was Grand Quagga OTK. Won a couple events. Yours truly actually won one of the events with green OTK. And I think this card is still extremely good. I think OTK decks this format are still very good, and they hold their own against any other decks. Being able to just get through your opponent's security in one turn is insane. And then you can also add in the control elements with green to make green OTK even better, like your Nidhogg's, your Rafflesias. I think it belongs at tier 1. It's still a top 3 deck, in my opinion. There's people out there that won't agree with that, but we also, I mean, like I said earlier, the green gets Weedmon, which can still go into green OTK. You still get your memory when you Digiburst. Chaosmon is still going to be very, very, very powerful. I mean, it was basically advanced before advanced came out. Other than that, though, there's not a whole lot of changes you're going to be making to OTK green. I think the promo Palmon is still extremely important, because a lot of this meta will be 12,000 and up DP. You're actually going to see an uptick in DP, like in the top tier meta decks. You're going to see like 12,000 and up. So the jamming is going to be very important for your Grand Quagga to survive. Next up, we have Ragnalordmon. This deck, it's good. I mean, it's good at what it does. When it can see its pieces, it's good. But it's another one of those decks that's really, really affected by the memory blockers, because they don't get their 3 memory when they go into their Ragnalords. So, you know, it does have like reboot to dodge like your Nidhogg's and everything, and it's a big boy. 14k is a very, very big boy with reboot too. But I seriously think we're gonna put this down here. Is it better than a purple deck? It's better than the Dan the Man. I personally think it's better than Dan the Man. So we'll put it towards the bottom of tier 3, but I think that's a very fitting place for Ragnarlordmon. Next up, one of my all-time favorite decks. So this Shine Greymon, this is the deck I actually started with before the game came out when we were printing off cards at our local hobby shop. Shine Greymon was the deck I played, so I love this deck, and you can't really sleep on this deck. It's always good at the very beginning of the format, but this format I feel like brings a lot more OTK decks. So those are decks that Shine really struggles against. Rush type decks that just beat you in one turn. He really struggles against decks like that. But I think he is one of the best super rares in the whole game. And being able to board wipe your opponent with 4 tamers and boost yourself up by 1000 DP for each tamer is absolutely broken. And you still have things like your Blinding Rays. All the cards that Yellow has, Shine Greymon has access to. And of course, Recovery will always reign supreme in this game, in my opinion. So for the Shine Greymon, we will put him... It can't be higher than Commandramon, because I think that's a rough matchup for Shine Greymon. So we'll put him right below Shine Greymon, or Commandramon at tier 2. Next up, we have Tactimon. Tactimon, it's another one of those purple decks, very piece reliant, has a good Rookie Rush matchup, because one of its effects, allows you to board wipe Rookie Rush pretty much. But then again, it's probably the least piece reliant purple deck out there. I'm not a big fan of it, but we will put it above Ragnarlordmon at tier 3. Next up, we have... What do we have up next? We have Reflegiamon. Reflegiamon's another green deck that I think it just belongs in tier 1. You have all the tools that green has. You have Nidhoggs, you got your Needle Sprays, you got your Mimis. You can play the Grand Kawago TK. Reflegia is just really good at stunning your opponent's board. A lot of these decks in this meta are going to be one stack decks, the OTK, and Reflegia just lets you stop all that in their tracks. So I just think it belongs in tier 1. At the bottom end of tier 1, of course, because really these two decks, you can splash both of these cards into the decks. So next up we have the ruler of BT4 format, Yellow or Greymon. It's really hard not to put this deck anywhere but the top of tier 2. This deck ruled BT4 format. Over half the playing field was Yellow or Greymon's. It does everything Lord Nightmon does. Lord Nightmon just does it a little bit more consistently. Yellow or Greymon can still pop off. Still does the same things. It can steal games early. Still clears boards. Still spams the field. So I think top of tier 2 is very fitting for that deck. Next up we have Blue-Green Rookie Rush. It's definitely outclassed by Yellow-Green Rookie Rush this format. But I think with a good pilot, Blue-Green Rookie Rush definitely belongs at the bottom of tier 1.5. A good pilot with this deck is really hard to beat. Granted, it does have a really bad matchup in like Lord Nightmon, Security Control, and Green because of Nidhoggmon. I still think a good pilot with Blue-Green Rookie Rush can steal games from me. If you're not prepared for it, of course, there's a lot more counters in BT5 for Rookie Rush, but if you're not prepared for this deck, it can definitely steal games, and I think we'll see a bunch of tops with it. And last but not least, we have Lilithmon. Of course, it's with the loop. I definitely think this deck is top of tier 1.5. It has the highest ceiling of any 1.5, of any BT5 purple deck. For you that don't know what the Lilith loop is, essentially you have the Mega Digimon Fusion. You go into Omnimon Zwart when you already have a level 5 when you have Lilith on board. You bring out 2 level 5s whenever you play Zwart with a play cost of 8 or less, so you can go like Chimeramon or another Digimon. You swing, return your Lilith back to hand, then you can go back into Lilith. You can just keep like spamming any option card really, but really your Jack raids like that. and you could just do all that for free and just keep bouncing your Lilithmon back to your hand. But this deck really gets stopped and gets hurt by things like Gazimon, Terriermon, Chumon. All those memory blockers really just shut down this strategy. That's why I've not put it tier 1. I know a lot of people put it at their tier 1. I think it's just too hard counter by those kind of cards, and for that reason we'll put it at the top of tier 1.5, because when it does pop off, it does pop off, and it's very hard to beat. But yeah, so that's it for my tier list prediction at the BT5 format. I hope all you guys enjoyed it. Leave some comments down below, tell me what you guys think about it. Don't forget to pepper breath that like button and blue blasted that subscribe button, and remember guys, keep it digital.